Welcome to the Island Times. I'm Tom Patton. Patrick Dooley was promoted to chief of the Jacksonville Beach Police Department following an extensive nationwide search conducted by the city of Jacksonville Beach. I'm pleased now to join Chief Dooley in the conference room at the Jacksonville Beach Police Department. Chief Dooley, thanks for taking some time to talk with us on the Island Times.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with kind of the elephant in the room, and that's the incident that occurred on Memorial Day. Take us through that for just a little bit, and then tell us, if you would, where that investigation stands.
Sure. I'd like to preface that with that it was a great weekend out here. We had a tremendous crowd out here. There were not really any real problems to speak of right up until the time that that incident took place. And I'd also like to clarify that that incident occurred with a handful of individuals. It was a group of people, not probably exceeding 20 people, that were even remotely involved in that incident, that actually took a great day and a good time and ruined it for everyone, obviously. All of those folks, none of them were aware of our beach's residents or anything like that. But that investigation, essentially what happened is we understand that you know, obviously the fight broke out in the about 400 block north on the boardwalk in the dune area there. And as the officers that were in the pier parking lot that were making an arrest, there was an officer in there. He saw it, he called it in. Additional officers began to respond. As those officers responded to the area, the crowd kind of flowed to the south a little bit. And apparently the same group of individuals hooked up again down there in the Latham Plaza area, and that's when the second video that you saw came up. We do have reason to believe they possibly knew each other or had previous contact prior to them coming out here to the beach. It's still under investigation, so I'm not going to get into the actual details of it right now, but I'm still hopefully optimistic that we can make an arrest in this in some fashion.
And I've heard a lot of people say, and I want to give you a chance to respond to this, that there are so many videos, so many cameras, you've seen obviously faces of people that were involved, and they want to know why there hasn't been an arrest made yet.
Sure, and I understand that, because in watching the video, it's clear that, you know, you can pick out individuals, but if we don't know who those individuals are, we can't arrest them. And we're starting to get close now to finding out who some of these individuals are. But we also have to have someone that can pick out for us to say that this individual, Joe, is the person that's on the video. Mm-hmm. And they have to have that personal, first-hand knowledge. And as police officers, we can't necessarily be the ones to say that. It has to be somebody that knows both, you know, the individuals. So it's a little bit more complex for the state attorney to actually have to prosecute a case to get that conviction, and than it is to just say, well, I think that's so-and-so. We can be pretty sure it's so-and-so, but unless we're really sure, we can't charge somebody.
So what are the takeaways then, not only for your department, but for the community, that you'll be taking into the 4th of July holiday, which is right around the corner?
Sure. Well, obviously, we want people to come out here. We want them, we depend on visitors. The beach has always been open to the entire community, and we want to continue that. We thrive on our visitors. Let's be real about that. But it's also very important that when our visitors come out here, that they respect that what we have to offer out here, that we are a smaller community than some others. And please bring your manners along with you when you come out here. Be respectful. Be as respectful as you would here as you would at your own home. And that's all we're asking, because this is our home.
What kind of additional support are you expecting to get, not only from the other beach communities, but from JSO as we look at that 4th of July holiday coming up?
Sure. The other beach communities on the 4th of July, realistically, they have issues within their own community, and they have to address those issues. So we probably won't be getting a lot of direct support from Atlantic or Neptune Beach as far as personnel goes, but they will have to contend with the traffic that will be you know, occurring as a result of the fireworks. So they're going to be helping with the traffic side of things, but things as they directly relate in their own city. We're currently talking with the Sheriff's Office to come to some conclusion on the numbers of officers that they're going to be able to provide us for the 4th of July event. In addition to that, we're using some of our other mutual aid partners that we have in the region. Nassau County Sheriff's Office has been good enough to offer us some people, St. Augustine Beach, University of North Florida Police Department, we've had mutual aid with them as well. And there'll be several others, I'm sure, that will be willing to help us out. It's important to everybody in the region that this event be successful.
Let's talk about some of the day-to-day issues, because outside of the major events, the Memorial Days, the 4th of July's, what kind of challenges do you have in providing public safety in a community like Jacksonville Beach?
Well, there's so many aspects to what we do here. We have traffic issues on a daily basis, and this is a full-service police agency. For a police department of 61 sworn officers and 95 personnel, we do an awful lot. And we have our parking programs that we deal with, and you know what a hot button issue the paid parking issue is, and that's something that falls under the purview of the police department as well. So we're very, very involved in that. We also have animal control here. The school crossing guards fall under the police department. Our communications section is dispatches for fire as well, so we have that aspect of everything, and technology is always a challenge. We're continually trying to keep up with technology and making sure that our technology affords us the opportunity to provide the best possible service to our residents and our visitors. So there's just a large number of different things that we do, and we do a lot of things for the community itself. We do the Hooked on Fishing Rodeo every spring. We do the Christmas party for kids. We do the Halloween party for kids, and a lot of that is done through our civilian volunteers, through our Citizen Police Academy and our Alumni Association. So that organization, we have over 800 graduates from our Citizen Police Academy, which is huge, and we count so much on those people to help us and make our agency function. When we went through, and we're still going through some difficult economic times, those people volunteered over 12,000 hours a year to this agency. That's huge. That's a contribution that far exceeds our wildest expectations when we started the program. And in a lot of parts of the state, they use our civilian programs as models because we have been so successful, and we've been somewhat creative in how we've actually used some of those folks in some cases, and they're such a big part of our agency.
Let's talk a little bit about the Downtown Cape program, and I know there's a second Cape program that is over in the area that used to be referred to as the Hill. When somebody hears now Pablo Beach, yes, South Pablo Beach, but when people hear the term CAPE program, they may not be aware of what that is. So can you give a little bit of an explanation of what that
CAPE
is?
Is an acronym for Community Assisted Policing Effort. When Bruce Thompson came here back in '91, shortly after that he formed the first CAPE program over in the South Pablo Beach area. Wanted to really reach out and have the police department become a part of that neighborhood and not just be their policing department, but wanted to be part of the neighborhood, part of the community. And so he kind of worked over a period of time and transformed the perceptions of the police department into a very positive thing in the community there. And if you know what the crime rate was there 20, 25 years ago, you know that it's very different today. It's a very different community than it was. And so that was a very, very positive thing. So when we started to experience some issues in the downtown area that we wanted to specifically be addressing, what better way to do that than to use a program that we already had in place with our CAPE in South Pablo Beach, but extend that to the downtown area itself, and did the Downtown CAPE program, which is the Downtown Community Assisted Policing Effort. We started it out with 2 officers, we expanded it to 4, and then now we have a 5th officer there who's a corporal to supervise the unit.
You've mentioned on a couple of occasions a police auxiliary.
Yes.
You've talked about that at a couple of city council meetings, and I wondered if you're in a position at this point that you can talk about that in any greater detail. Well,
again, I haven't completely had this approved by the city council. I hope that they're going to be supportive of it. But the goal here is to work for a cost-effective force multiplier for the department. We've had a tremendous amount of community involvement in this agency. People want to come and work with us and help us. So I figured what better way to use a police reserve program to where we can ask those volunteers to come in here. We'll help pay for the training because they do have to be state certified, not to the extent that a full-time officer would have to be. It's about half, it's about 300 hours. But we'd pay for that training, give them the uniforms and things like that, and then they can volunteer to be basically a part-time or a reserve police officer in the agency. Those officers they have the same authority as a regular officer when they're with the full-time officer. If they can't work on their own or anything like that. So the training is a little bit less. But it's a good force multiplier for us down there in the downtown area, or any other part of the city for that matter. We wouldn't have to send 2 cars on every call for some of the calls that we're responding to, and our calls for service are rising. And so we're trying to look at innovative ways to keep our costs down, but yet continue to provide the level of service that our citizens have come to expect.
You know, we've heard from a couple of folks around the community that there has been an increase in the crime rate in Jacksonville Beach. To what do you attribute, first of all, do you agree with that assessment, and then to what do you attribute it?
I think a lot of it depends on the crime rate and how you're measuring it. There are different types of crime. Our violent crime is actually down. Our burglaries are down. The quality of life crimes, I think, continue to be an issue with us, and they will be as long as we continue to have large number of visitors. That's always going to be a problem when people come into another area and they just don't have the common courtesy to respect where they're at. They don't treat this as if it were their home. And so that's going to continue to be a problem. One of the ways we want to continue to address that is to show that when you come out here, if you choose to step outside the bounds of what the norms or the expectations of the community are, there's a consequence for that. And in many cases that consequence could result in your arrest, and we'd have to remove you from the area. That's not our first choice. We'd much rather have you come out here and enjoy the beautiful beaches and than the restaurants and businesses that we have here, but we have to protect the interest of the community as well.
Speaking of quality of life crimes, I know that you also hear from a lot of folks, why don't the police just arrest all the homeless and get them out of our area? Talk about the homelessness issue a little bit and how your officers are trained to deal with those folks.
I appreciate you bringing that up, because that is always a hot button issue with the community. The homeless problem is such that there's no way to truly arrest your way out of this problem. If someone is arrested for a quality of life crime, drinking in public, urinating in public, these kinds of things, they may go to jail for a very short period of time, but they're going to be right back out here. And in many cases, they might just be ROR'd at the jail and released right then. So they may even sometimes beat the officer back to the beach. That's an exaggeration, but it's close. Our goal is to find ways to actually work to take some people off the street. What we've done over the past few years is we've formed partnerships with the Salzbacher Center, the Mission House, these kinds of social agencies that provide services to these individuals to work long term to get them off the street, get them into housing, get them jobs, get them into medical programs or AA or whatever the case may be, because there's a lot of mental health issues when it comes to the homeless. There's a lot of drug abuse, substance abuse that we have to deal with. So we want to always work in the direction of trying to fix the problem long term rather than just a short term solution of arresting him. Mind you, I have no problem arresting somebody who needs to go to jail, but we also want to work in the long term to fix the problem, to remove these people or get them housing. So we do work very closely with those agencies. When we find folks that are in need of services, obviously we give them the proper referrals. We even may, in some cases, take them to the Mission House to say this is a new person in town, these are and we hand out rules and inform them that you can't sleep on the beach here, because if you do camp on the beach overnight, you're going to be arrested. So we try to give people that kind of information at the front end, not to scare them off so much as to just make sure that they have an understanding that if you do go out and you camp it on the beach, that there's a consequence for that and you can't do it. It's not legal. If you do other things in this city that are illegal, there's a consequence for that. So we do arrest a tremendous amount of homeless, but at the same time we have to work for a long-term goal to find a resolution to some of it. And we're never going to solve homelessness. There have been people a lot smarter than me work on this problem, and there is some level of success. We placed over 66 people last year with assistance of other agencies and churches and things like that. But we're working in that direction to continue to solve the problem long term rather than just do a short term solution by arresting people all the time.
I want to go to kind of you personally a little bit, and did you have as a career goal when you first put on a uniform that you wanted to be a chief of police?
Absolutely not. You know, my entire family, I grew up in a law enforcement family. My grandfather was a police officer, uncles, etc. That was never my goal. My goal was to be a street policeman and ultimately, eventually, maybe someday, right before retirement, maybe make sergeant, those kinds of things. Of course, when we're younger, we have different aspirations, and as we go older, But no, that was not originally my goal, to be a police chief.
So how have you found the transition from, I know you started as a patrolman, to now to lead this department?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting ride, and I'm very, very blessed with the people that I work with here. Chief Thomason, chief who was here for over 20 years, was a great mentor, a great teacher. Learned so many different things from him. I can't even begin to list them. But he was a good man to work for, and taught me a lot, and taught everybody in this department a lot. And I've had other, people. There have been people in my life, sergeants coming up in my career that I've learned a lot from, lieutenants. I mean, there's a lot of just other patrol officers. There's a patrolman in this department that I've known since I started here, Sam Owen. He's been a rock in this community, and I love the man to death. He's one of the best policemen I've ever met in my life. It's people like that influence you, and things they teach you stay with you your entire career.
One thing more, and I want to give you an opportunity to plug the Citizen Police Academy, and I will say in the spirit of full disclosure that I'm class 29 of the Citizen Police Academy, and I think I only missed one, so I did pretty well.
Good.
And from my perspective, when I'm able to sit here and ask you a question, why don't you arrest somebody, I already have a good idea of what the answer is,
Sure.
and part of that came from the Citizen Police Academy.
It's all about perspective, and that's what we try to teach in the Citizen Police Academy, that there are reasons in many cases for doing what we do. Understanding that we have so many different areas of responsibility. If you're a victim of a burglary and you're dealing with a detective, that is the biggest case to you, and we understand that. We're sensitive to that. We pride ourselves on our level of customer service, but we have a number of cases that we have to deal with. So we try to make sure that there's a balance there, that we're prioritizing, but yet at the same time we're providing a high level of customer service, even if sometimes it's telling the customer that, we haven't been able to find your property yet, but we're still looking, and those are the kinds of things that we want to make sure that we're always doing. But the Citizen Police Academy has been such a valuable tool to us to educate the community on what we really do. We've had some folks that might not have been very big fans of ours that have come to the Police Academy, and after a period of time in there, they realize that very often we are in fact doing the right thing, and that there are reasons sometimes that decisions are made or a call is handled a certain way, and it's not always because it's the way we want to do it, it's because that's the way that we're required to do things in certain situations. And like you said, I think it gives a tremendous amount of perspective to people to understand sometimes what these officers are actually going through when they go call to call to call like this, and the kinds of issues that they're actually dealing with. I think people are often surprised by the types and volume of issues that these officers deal with.
I did my ride-along on a Friday night until 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was an eye-opening experience.
It certainly is, and we do 2 a year, and obviously I invite everyone who can and is willing to come to please do. It's a very enlightening experience, and it's a great opportunity for us to get to expand our family here in the police department, because we really do consider the people that go through the academy, they are such intricate parts of our department. We know they're volunteers, but it's like they're almost really employees because we see them so often. They're great people to be around, and it's great for us that there's that level of concern for the officers and involvement from the community, their support.
And you don't have to be a resident of Jacksonville Beach.
No, you do not. We are non-discriminatory in that respect. We invite everyone from anywhere in the region that can or will come, please do.
Well, Chief Dooley, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with me today, and I know you've got a lot of planning to do yet for the 4th of July, and we're looking forward to a great event and a great weekend, and we appreciate everything that you do.
I am too. Thank you. Good talking to you.